I think of those women every day, and I would say, with all my heart, I am sorry for what I put you through, and I want you to know that nothing like that will ever happen again.
In real life, I know that you're a person of faith. Has this made you lose faith, or has it made your faith stronger?
In the church, Christ says in so many ways, bring me that which about you which is broken. Bring it. I'm a human being. I have faults and I've done things that I deeply regret, but I also know that I have a really good heart.
Hey, human family, how are you? It's Darren. Welcome to another episode of Fully Alive Again. You guys, today we're going to take a look at an actor by the name of Stephen Collins. He really gives a perfect example of how narcissists trick and fool us. In my opinion, this guy is a total narcissist. But before we go any further, I want to give you heads up that this goes into some dark areas. So if you're new on your healing journey, this may not be an episode that you want to watch. And for the rest of you, let's do what we do and dive deep.
No tears, no fears, fully alive again after these years.
There's an old African proverb that states, the most lethal enemy is the one you can't see. Whew. Isn't that what narcissistic abuse is all about? Isn't that what war is? It's deception. It's the sneak attack. It's the blind side. You see, if you don't think a narcissist is at war with you, you're being naive. And the reason that we were so demolished by these creatures is because we didn't see it coming. And also because when someone you care about and someone you trust and love deceives you, fools you, and tries to demolish you, it is soul crushing. There's nothing else like it in the human experience. Not a breakup. When you break up with a sentient human being, it is not the same. When a stranger violates you, calls you out of your name, or even physically attacks you and harms you, it is not the same. What we have experienced is nothing less than devastating in every sense of the word. That's why you should be very proud of yourself from getting through that. No matter what level you're at in your healing journey, no matter what stage you're at in your healing journey, you are here, you are aware, you are going through this shit and coming out on the other side. You are on the path. And that is amazing. Be proud of yourself and keep that same energy when the dark times come, because they will come. They come to all of us. Remember what you've already gone through and that you're still here. You should not take that lightly, because what you've overcome to still be standing is miraculous. And for all those watching who have never been in a relationship and abused by one of these monsters, pay close attention to today's episode. It could save you from the kind of devastation I am talking about. So let's take a look at Stephen Collins' interview and examine what I believe to be a covert narcissist.
In a town notorious for its toxic breakups, few have been as bitter as the family feud between the actor Stephen Collins and his wife, Faye Grant.
This morning, the scandal surrounding actor Stephen Collins gets uglier by the day.
Married 29 years, they seem to be a Hollywood anomaly, the picture-perfect couple. But little did we know.
Now remember, we have been programmed how to respond to the world. You just heard the commentators say they were the picture-perfect couple. What in God's name is the picture-perfect couple? See, and we all have, when I say the picture-perfect couple, just think about what comes to your mind instantaneously. Boom! Picture-perfect couple. That's conditioning. That's how we get caught in the booby trap. It's part of it. Okay?
I've always said this, marriage is absolutely unfathomable. You think you understand someone else's marriage? Nobody does. Nobody does.
It's Opal, the Sapphire Center.
A steady presence in both movies and television for the last 40 years, Collins has played everything from a Nixon aide in All the President's Men
What happened on June 17th, I don't think the president knew anything about.
to a straight-laced starship captain in Star Trek
Admiral Kirk. Oh, we're getting a top brass send-off.
to Diane Keaton's estranged husband in The First Wives Club.
Is that all you can do? Think of yourself. If you go through with this, I'll have nothing.
But he's best known as Reverend Eric Camden, father of 7 and pillar of the community for 11 seasons on the hit series Seventh Heaven.
I don't think God put you on hold. I think God brought you here.
He's a swell guy doing God's work, trying to make a television program that little boys and girls can watch that has moral. Now there's two things to unpack here. One is that the character that he's playing is a noble and a very inspiring character. Nothing wrong with the character, but it's the man who is playing the character, exhibiting that they can portray themselves as anybody that you want them to be. That is the skill that a narcissist has. They can play the ultimate good guy. They can play a spiritual guru or leader. There is not one image, one role that these people cannot mutate into. Number two, if they had nefarious objectives, how much has that been peppered in to the dialogue, into the script, into the screenplay, into the overall production of a movie or TV show? These people cannot help but doing nefarious deeds and things. So this goes over generations being pumped out from Hollywood. Okay? So this has had an impact on how we see the world and what we believe is a good person, be it male or female.
Off-screen, he seemed to practice what he preached, volunteering at soup kitchens and serving communion at his local church. But beneath that squeaky clean image, Collins was hiding a secret. Did you feel at times that you were leading a double life in any way?
No, we're all made of dark parts and light parts. I know that other people are going to judge and doubt, and I can't do anything about that. All I can do is tell my truth.
All right, there's 2 red flags in that last clip that he communicated. Number 1 is that there's dark and light in everyone. There is good and bad in everyone, but there is not good and evil and darkness in everyone. This is a tactic that psychologists use, pastors use, narcissists use, people that are narcissists in those positions, rather. It's a consistency. We human beings, yes, we do good and bad. Yes, we do bad things. But we are not evil. Evil is evil. It is unchangeable. Good and bad is something that is fluid. It's sometimes there, it isn't. It's transient in our behaviors and in our habits and in our thinking. Evil and good do not exist in the same vessel. They can portray themselves as good. They can do good things, but they are not good. And that does not exist in sentient human beings. The evil doesn't, the bad does. I've been a bad boy in my life. There was a time when I was running them streets. I was. I've been dishonest. I've been a liar before in my life. I've done bad things. I am by no means saying that I'm some type of saint. There are things that I am profoundly ashamed of and would never do again. But they weren't evil. They were stupid. They were bad. They were dishonest. But they weren't out of malice. They weren't parasitic. There's a difference there. And that's how they camouflage themselves a lot when they get caught, is the first thing that they say is, well, there's good and bad and evil in each of us. No, there isn't evil in all of us. So be very careful with that person that you hear saying that. Second, when you hear someone say, my truth. That's what he said. He said, I don't care. I can't worry about being judged by other people. All that I can do is live my truth. There is no my truth. There's not a Darren truth. There's truth. It's not internal. It's external in behaviors. Now, I mean, I guess that's a fine line. Truth can be internal to a certain degree on your spiritual practices, but it's not from our philosophies and our behaviors. There's not my truth that contradicts truth. That is such a profound statement and phrase that's going around. Well, my truth is, so then you're saying there's no such thing as truth. We all are so individualized and so different from each other that we have our own personal truths. See, that's what a narcissistic world wants, is individual truth. Because my behavior is then justified because it's my truth. And my truth happens to be dishonest and a lie, because he's a piece of shit narcissist, as you'll see in these next clips.
The story exploded this fall when TMZ released audio of Collins and his wife while they were undergoing marriage counseling. Audio that included admissions of his sexual misconduct with 3 underage girls decades ago.
There was one instance.
But how did you, there was one instance what?
Well, this isn't a disclosure, and I told you before, there was one instance where there was one moment of touching.
Unbeknownst to Collins, Faye had secretly recorded every disturbing word. When did you realize she was wearing a wire?
She took me into a stairwell, and she told me there, she revealed that, she said, I recorded. I was wearing a wire. I recorded that session. And she said, here's our settlement. You're going to sign it now, or that recording is going to find its way to the media.
All right, I just want to chime in a few things here real quick. Number one is that he is playing the victim to what she did by recording him. That's right there. You could see it. Trying to get the sympathy card. Remember, narcissists always play the victim card. Number two is that she knew that he was going to say something that was that egregious, something that offensive. How did she know that? He's probably been gaslighting her with that statement or those phrases and that kind of conversation throughout their relationship, and whittling her down to nothing, where she tolerated that kind of discussion for years, knowing that this man had molested little girls before. That's a hell of a thing to live with in a relationship, and it's a hell of a gaslighting tool. Narcissists are twisted. They will do things just to get a reaction out of a person and watch them squivel around in their awkwardness from what the narcissist just said to them. That's a high to them, to watch your discomfort, to watch your uneasiness with the nefarious things that they're saying or doing. And I believe that backfired on him.
Grant denies being the source of the leak, but the fallout was fast and furious. He was dropped from a recurring role on ABC's Scandal, ironically, and fired from the set of the soon-to-be-released comedy Ted 2.
He played a sweet, sympathetic reverend on television, but now in real life he's accused of being a monster.
The news about that sordid recording instantly destroyed a reputation he had spent decades building and publicly branded him as a sexual predator. The first incident was in 1973. You were 25 years old. How old was the victim?
She was 10.
Tell us what happened.
Well, in 1973, there were 2 occasions when I exposed myself to this young woman. And several months later, she came to...
All right, you guys. Narcissists are notorious for trying to prevaricate and minimize what they've done and what they do. Notice he said, I think it was twice that I exposed myself to these young women. No, they were not young women. These were little girls. These were babies. These were children. And at 25, you should know better. That makes you a pedophile piece of you-know-what. You're done. It's over. It's a wrap. There's nothing to discuss. You cannot change these people. Do you know why I know this? Here's a little tidbit about me that you may not know, is that early on in my life, when I started my life skill training for educators and for social workers and etc., and was on the speaking circuit, I also conducted a life skill anger management for new parolees in Minnesota. So not everyone, but a high percentage of the parolees coming out of the Minnesota correctional institutions had to go through my course. And some of that population were child molesters, were pedophiles. And I read their case logs and who they were and what they did. And it was very difficult to work with these people because I wanted to jump across the table and just break their neck because of the horrific things that they did. But here's the point. All of these men that I met, and there were dozens, were very agreeable, had a very nice demeanor about them. They had an agreeable disposition. They were friendly. They were presentable. They were highly intelligent too, the vast majority of them. They were people that you would trust. Now, understand what I'm saying. Trust. Some of the more oppositional, aggressive inmates that were being released, when it all came down and it was all broken down, had some of the biggest hearts and were some of the kindest people you could ever meet. I really mean this. Now, is it an absolute? Absolutely not. But the vast majority of the inmates who you would think you could not trust because of the way that they walk, they talk, the way that they look, that you couldn't trust them with your kids, you could. The ones that you thought you could trust your kids with were the most dangerous. I experienced this firsthand, I kid you not. Now again, I'm not saying that you can trust anyone by their walk, their talk, the way that they dress, or their demeanor. People are deceptive. They can come across as being agreeable, and they're not. They can come across as being a protector, and they're not. But this man exhibits every trait that I saw in these men. What does that mean? That he has a laundry list of little girls and maybe little boys that he's molested. This doesn't just go away. I like exposing myself to little girls one day, and then on Tuesday, I came to the conclusion that's not a good thing to do. I don't think it's that transient. I think this man is a predator, a narcissist, and a dangerous, sick human being.
Visit, and she and I were watching TV alone together, and I took her hand and moved it in such a way that she was touching me inappropriately. I knew that something unthinkably wrong had just happened that I couldn't take back, and I think we both just sat there. We really didn't move a muscle.
Come on, man! Are you high? Are you high? And we both just sat there and we didn't move a muscle. We were on the same frequency, her and I. We just looked at each other and said to each other, "Oh my God, what just happened? I don't know. Did you feel that? Yeah, did you feel it? Yeah, I did." Jesus, God! Are you effing kidding me? But listen to the tone of his voice. And somehow I took her hand over and you took her hand and you forced her hand down your pants. What he is saying is unbelievable coming from an adult man. Now, if that was your daughter, all you men listening, and you mothers too, and you walked in and your daughter's hand was down his pants, what would you do to this guy? What would take place? But he's saying it so softly and so kind. And he has on a cardigan sweater and a nice pair of slacks. And he's got his hair groomed perfectly. And he's very sincere. He's such a sweet man. He just made a mistake. See, and that's where we slip into darkness. That's where we get fooled. All of those little nuances, they know what they're doing. They have groomed themselves, positioned themselves to be trusted. And we have been groomed to trust all of the nuances that he's presenting.
And after about, what I recall is about 45 seconds, I took her hand and moved it back. I waited a couple of minutes because I just didn't know what to do or say.
Doesn't he remind you of Amber?
And then
Isn't that Amber?
got up
I didn't
and left the
remember.
room.
45 seconds.
But
Oh
a
my
decade
goodness.
later, and the same year he met his wife on the set of Tales of the Gold Monkey, he says it happened again.
There were 2 times in 1982, 20 years ago, in 1994, when I exposed myself to 2 different teenage girls. There was no physical contact of any kind with either of them.
Do you remember the look on these girls' faces?
The look on the one in 1982 was such that it immediately just stopped everything cold. It was clear that she was disoriented and frightened, and that just made me want to stop and cover up, and I did.
How old were these girls in 1982 and 1994?
They were 13 and 14.
Did you find this sexually gratifying?
Not at all. I mean, not at all. It was not exciting. It was not gratifying. There was no gratification.
Then why did you do it?
It was a combination of poor impulse control, arrogance, 25-year-old arrogance.
When was
the audacity to call that arrogance? That's called sickness, evil. And just because he says none of them went further doesn't mean that it's true. And how does he remember 20 years back? What, did he keep a diary where he read and refreshed the memory of it? It was 45 seconds. That's where he sounds like Amber Heard. It was 45 seconds. I remember the carpet was so dirty. And then I remember the way that she looked at me. When they're breaking down nuances like that, you know they're lying. This man is a monster.
The moment you realized that you had these impulses, an attraction to prepubescent or underage girls.
No, that's the thing, and I absolutely do not have that attraction. I am not attracted to underage girls. Keep in mind that the only time there was any physical contact with an underage girl was in 1973. And
well, since you are a swell guy, we believe you. He's part of the Believe Him movement. He said it, so we're good. He said that he's never touched anybody. I mean, look at him. Look at the sincerity. Look at the cardigan. He would never do that to anybody. He's good to go. He said he didn't do it.
And the incident in 1982, God help me, took advantage. That's not the right word, but I acted impulsively again.
I think taking advantage may be
maybe it is exactly the right word.
Are you a pedophile?
I do not fit the either clinical or dictionary definition of it.
Well, thank God for that. The clinical definition of that is good enough for us. He's good to go. I need someone to watch my 13-year-old daughter next week. Are you available? I realize that the clinical definition and the psychologist and the therapy you've been going through says that you're good to go. How about Friday at 8:30?
I'm absolutely not attracted, physically or sexually attracted to children.
Never tempted?
No.
Never had the urge? That seems sort of weird to me. If this is a pattern of behavior, that you could go for several years and not have that inclination.
Because I didn't.
Why did you want to do this interview?
The truth, as painful as it is less painful than the stuff that was flying around the internet and some of the rumors.
The former Reverend Camden may have fallen from grace, but he says he's constantly atoning for the harm he caused 3 young girls years ago.
I think of those women every day, and I would say, with all my heart, I am sorry for what I put you through.
Well, it seems to me if you think about them every day, you would be out of tears by now. That it wouldn't be so fresh to bring up tears at this particular moment. I mean, this guy, even look at how Katie Couric's looking at him like, you really don't think people are going to believe this shit, do you? So, one thing that I didn't show is that he did talk about being molested as a child, which is something that I believe is true, but it doesn't justify harming other people. So I hope this brought you some clarity on just how deceptive a covert narcissist can be, and some inspiration to set new boundaries and to stick to your boundaries and never trust a book by its cover. I've got nothing but love for you guys, and I deeply appreciate you guys coming through today. Just like all the viewers, I look forward to your comments, concerns, and suggestions. And if you found some value in today's episode, please give a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll catch you guys on the next video. Until then, peace. Be well.
No tears.